Welcome to a special series of BIV Today, the daily podcast from the Newsroom of Business in Vancouver, in which we're meeting our CEO of the Year award recipients. I'm Kirk LaPointe, publisher and editor-in-chief. Today we're meeting the recipients in the publicly accountable category and English, CEO and Registrar to the Engineers and Geoscientists BC. That's the organization that governs those professions, now 100 years old. And Cathy Thorpe. She's the CEO, president of Nurse Next Door, the franchise system that offers private home care to seniors. She's earned a special distinction award for the organization's work in the pandemic. Congratulations, both of you. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Let me start with you, Cathy. What have recent times been teaching you as a CEO?
You think back to the beginning of 2020, and I don't think we'd be sitting here today if not having learned the amount of things that we've learned over these last months. And, I think when I look back at the last 6 months in particular, innovation comes to mind. And, how do you continue to have that mindset of abundance versus scarcity? And it really helped the organization see what the possibilities and the learnings are through times like this. And, I'm pretty amazed at the amount of innovation and learnings that we've gone through and continue to go through. And I think it's just the start of something that will continue well into 2021.
Yeah, and it has been a learning experience. Tell me about what it's taught you.
Yeah, I think it's don't ever take what's normal. What's normal, and how do you always look at the business and say, how do we continuously improve it? And how do you have that mindset of, we know we're an essential service. I think before this pandemic, we knew that in our heads. And what that's really taught us is that's in our hearts now. And the choices that we get to make in terms of supporting the community, supporting seniors to be able to stay at home has really impacted us on a far deeper level than what we would have before March.
Yeah. And English? Tell me what you've learned.
So much. It's hard to know where to start, Kirk. I think one of the big ones, and I totally agree with Cathy, but one of the big ones for us too has been the importance of being adaptable and flexible to new situations, because we never could have predicted this would happen. And so to be able to innovate, as Cathy says, and change your way of thinking, I think to recognize that there isn't a one-size-fits-all solution for all staff or all registrants. And I think another good learning, I think, is the value of good bones in your organization. So having things like good risk management plans, contingency plans, business continuity plans, all those kinds of fundamental things that often, we put on the back of our to-do list. But at times like this, you realize they really are an important part of your work. And I can't say enough about having really good, in this particular case, having really good IT systems. It's the thing that has enabled us to go from having, and we have roughly 100 staff, and from having everybody working in the office one day to everybody working from home at 8:30 the next morning, basically without a hiccup. And that was really due to fantastic IT services that had been put in place.
Yeah, that sounds incredible. So, and continue with me on this one, but how does a CEO lean in during these times?
It's a great question and a really important one. And I think one of the things is to maintain contact with your staff. It's all about communications. And I know in my own case, every day for the first month of the pandemic, the first month we were working remotely, I sent notes to staff. And over time, I had to decrease the occurrence of those to weekly and then eventually monthly, and now they're a little more sporadic. But I think that that was a really important piece of continuity and of keeping staff's morale up, for them to know that there was a contact and that there was a way for them to reach out. We also put in place a call-in line that anybody could phone in with concerns they were having, frequent leadership team meetings. So communication. Yeah.
Cathy, you've got a broadly based company, and with franchisees all over the place. So how do you then, as a CEO, lean in?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, you have to show up. As an essential service, showing up is as much part of it as anything. I also think being real. We're all humans that are going through this together. And, a lot of people talk about, how we've moved to Zoom, and it's so awesome because you actually get to see into people's living rooms or parts of their life that weren't there before. And I think that that's a really important part of this, that, we're human beings we all have to come together, and we're only going to be successful if we're honest about what we're going through and be real and share those stories. Because I think it's when people realize that they're not in those feelings alone, that it really gives them that energy and desire to really go out there and continue to make a difference in anything that they're doing.
And what surprised you in all of this?
Oh, I think what surprised me was the fact that we were able to do it, that we were able to, in a very agile way, that we moved from being highly dependent on a physical environment to being able to cope remotely. So our doors are not open, but our business is definitely open. And I think that it surprised us that we didn't need the dependence on the real estate that we always thought we needed. And in fact, we had been looking at moving to a larger facility. We now know that we don't need that. And we will, on a long-term basis, probably be able to manage for a number of years with the facility that we have. And that was a big change in mindset. Many of our people managers thought you had to be in person. And I think we would all say that's certainly the most desirable situation, but that we can cope remotely. We figured out ways to do it. Eventually, I think we will move to a long-term work from home remedy, but still with a high degree of contact on a regular basis.
Yeah. Cathy, surprises?
Yeah, that that you can have fun during these times. I think when you're coming together as people and you bring those moments of joy and happiness, and that you can still have it as hard as the days are and as impactful as what's been happening out there is. You truly can have those moments where it's like, oh, I had a great day. And I think that, when people feel that, that goes a long way.
Yeah. Well, tell me then, Cathy, what have you learned about yourself?
Yeah, that I have taking care of myself has to be a priority, right? And making sure that I'm showing up with the right balance in my life. Am I taking the time to, what is balance for me? What does my family mean to me during this time? How am I making sure that I give them the time so that I can show up here and be as strong as I need to be? That's something that has really resonated with me over these last months, and something that I've prioritized and made sure that I've shown up with my headspace there, because some of the decisions that you're making every day are big ones, and you need to have that mindset every single time. Yeah.
And tell me a little bit about, because I think the focus has always been, what have we learned generally speaking, but add a little bit here on what you've learned about yourself.
Well, I think I've learned that I get my energy from people, and that at first was very hard. And I agree with Cathy. You have to be very authentic in your communications about what are the struggles and what are the high points. And I think that working remotely, as we all are, has a different impact for people that are extroverts versus introverts. And I think in some ways the introverts are kind of thriving on it. And I think the extroverts are, struggling and having to be a bit more adaptable. And in my case, I'm very extroverted, and I really, really miss seeing my staff on a regular basis. And so I've had to be more intentional about reaching out and keeping those lines of communication open, whatever way they are. It has to be by Zoom or by phone, and to try to, I think, reduce the urge to just send emails. And I think people do sort of fall to that. And I think that that could be a bit of a trap because it's only one-way communication. And so I think that for me has been a big learning for myself, how much I depend on seeing people in the communication part.
And just to follow on that, Anne, I mean, is that part of how you've actually taken care of yourself, is to ensure that you have this contact going on?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And also making sure that I have the energy for the work. Being on Zoom calls day in, day out, all day, which CEOs normally are, because that's how you conduct a lot of your business. People are depending on you for decisions and input. And so you're on calls from morning until night. That takes a lot of energy. It's tiring, more tiring, I think, than working in the flesh in an office. And so you have to work yourself to have that energy to bring it to the table every single day and be intentional about that.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that, Cathy, and how you've, here you are, you're an organization that takes care of people. How are you taking care of yourself?
I think, I still go back to, everyone has their own definition of balance. For me, that is spending the time with my family, making sure that I'm out there in nature, I'm out there running. So it's helping people define what balance is, and just knowing what you need to give to yourself every day to be able to show up. And I love the word intentional that you use, because I think that that's exactly what it is. How can we be intentional in everything that we're doing every day?
Can I get from you a bit of advice for other leaders who might be watching and might have their own struggles right now, on what it is that you can provide in the way of advice? Let me start with you, Anne. What kinds of things you're telling other leaders they need to be mindful of?
Sure. I think for me, and this is something that I live with every day as a leader, is that my belief is that every single day people come to their work intending to be the best they can be. That's my mindset when I approach anything, is people are coming to this with the full intent of being the best they can be. And when they can't show up in that capacity for some reason, it's our job as leaders to try and help them figure out how to remove whatever the roadblocks are. That's where we come in, so that they can be the best that they can. And I think if you approach any situation like that during COVID or any other time, any situation that you approach at all, you will get a better outcome if your mindset and your belief is that people are trying to be the best they can be.
Cathy?
Yeah, I would just say, I go to the word humanness. Are we, showing up as humans every day? And when we do that, you will always make the right decisions. I would also say that during this time, you're challenged probably daily. Do I want to look at this from a place of scarcity or from a place of abundance? Oh. And, how do you help stay in that place of abundance so that you make the right decisions? You see the possibilities of the business, the possibilities of people in the future, and just always work on keeping yourself balanced in that space.
Yeah. Last question for both of you. I'll start with you, Cathy. And I've asked the CEOs and CFOs this for the last number of weeks, but be honest now. Do you like your job more?
I love my job more. I go back to, I knew the purpose before, but really stepping into that place of being the essential service over these last months. Yeah, that love and pride that I have is even deeper.
Nice. Anne?
I think I do. I mean, I the same as Cathy. We're blessed to have jobs that we love. And that's the first thing I tell anybody at working at Engineers and Geoscientists BC is it's a job I absolutely love to come to every single day. And one of the things maybe that has allowed me to enjoy it more has been I've been challenged in a different way. Yeah. After being in a position for 8 years, you think you've sort of run across most of the things that you will. And this is brand new. And yet, so personally, I've been challenged in a way that was different. And so learning new things, being able to grow through this whole process, I think has allowed me to enjoy it even more, although I still miss the people.
Yeah. Anne English at Engineers and Geoscientists BC, and Cathy Thorpe at Nurse Next Door. It's been great talking to both of you. Congratulations again, winning the CEO of the Year award, and look forward to eventually getting together.
Thanks, Kirk.
Thank you very much, and stay safe.
You've been watching our special series on CEO of the Year. I'm Kirk LaPointe, publisher and editor-in-chief of Business in Vancouver. We'll see you again.